Helping Seniors Television, all about improving quality of life for seniors. If you're a senior, know a senior, or plan to be a senior, then this show is for you. It's all about helping you develop your own aging plan so you can age actively and with dignity. Helping Seniors Television from the Helping Seniors Network of information, education, and resources. Welcome to today's edition of Helping Seniors Television from the Helping Seniors Network. Whether you are caring for a senior, are a senior, or just plan to be one, we hope you'll enjoy today's program. On today's edition of Helping Seniors TV, learn about staying home safely with Senior Modifications. Helping Seniors TV program host and longtime senior advocate Joe Steckler talks with Elaine Deremer Cook of HandyPro of the Space Coast about the topic of staying home safely with simple senior home modifications.
Welcome to this edition of Helping Seniors. Today our show is about HandyPro of the Space Coast. Our panelist is Elaine Cook, who is the owner of HandyPro, and welcome to the show, Elaine.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here because I think when you explain to people what HandyPro of the Space Coast is, they're going to be amazed at what you can do and how the services that you can provide can help people almost at any walk of life.
Very true.
That's exactly right. Explain to people, our viewers, what HandyPro of the Space Coast is, what it is, what you do.
Okay, we are an engineering and also a general contracting firm that specializes in accessibility modifications for people with disabilities to remove barriers within their residential homes or within their communities to make sure that they can continue to live within those communities independently and safely and do everything they wanted to do.
Yep. But I think people also need to realize, Elaine, that HandyPro can provide a whole area of services to maybe a group that we haven't really considered, not just people getting older. They don't have to be disabled. As we grow older, our ability to bend over and crawl under cabinets and everything else becomes quite difficult at times. And I say that because I'm at that point in my own life. So I know how lucky I am when I built my home to be able to access almost every place in a home. I can't call it crawl space. I wouldn't try that anymore because my body just won't bend that much. I stay away from ladders. Anything will put me on a ladder because I don't want to fall off a ladder. What HandyPro of the Space Coast can do is if you get an organization like yours involved in the right planning stage of your home building or home modification, you can make the home safer for the person that wants to stay living in the home.
Yes, it's called the universal design concept, where you're trying to make everything in the new homes accessible at any point in your life. So to take away any of the barriers that could occur as you grow older, as you said, bending over. Why not put things that you need up higher or on your level or not too high, so that you don't have to get up on a stool. So make it all accessible.
What we've done at our homes is that we built them such that as we do get older, we have provided unsafe elements in the home. Because we're requiring people to bend over. You break bones when you bend over. You do a lot of things. You get up on a ladder, you get dizzy, you fall off, you break a hip, you end up in the hospital. And I forgot the statistic on people going to a hospital with a broken hip. The recovery rate's not so great.
No, it's not. It's
really not. And so, I always explaining to folks before the show started, folks, that when we built our home, my wife and I, we made some provisions in the house, and I talked about making some changes in the bathroom, but Elaine quickly reminded me about something else you have to consider before you think about getting what you're going to do in the bathroom. You got to remember how to get to the
How to
bathroom.
get to the bathroom.
And what was your comment to me?
Okay, what I've noticed is the newer bathrooms are accessible. They're nice and wide. They have a 36-inch doorway to get into them. The problem is to get to the bathroom is usually a series of hallways that can be in a meandering sort of way and sort of like a maze, and would be very difficult to get around with a walker or a wheelchair because you have to maneuver around the walls before you get to the bathroom. Once you get to the bathroom, it's easy and it's accessible and you can move around very freely within the bathroom. The problem is trying to get there.
See, I never told you this, but I understand what you're talking about because and when I was in high school, I took a special course we had in a small town I grew up in Kentucky, where we had draft shop classes, and I elected to take drafting for 3 years, a 3 hours a day, 3 days a week of drafting, and one of the primary things was home design. So I designed a lot of homes when I was a teenager, living in a small town in Kentucky, and for years I kept those plans. And they really are plans of the type of home that we have today, a more open type home, a home that's accessible for everybody. And when you think about it, the home structure itself lends itself more to doing what you're talking about, but we still haven't gotten there with, instead of putting a shower in, it's got a big high thing on it, we could put a shop as you could, like what we call a wheelchair shower.
Right, a roll-in shower, right.
But so it's not, I think there's got to be a way for an organizations like HandyPro, the Space Coast, to be more involved in the initial design of what's happening, or at least, well, it's got to be involved in initial design because it's ridiculous to have to rip out a bathroom or rip out a toilet. Why put a low height toilet in instead of when you can put the high-rise toilet? Because the high-rise toilet fits everybody.
I agree.
And
I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. Now, so maybe instead of worrying so much about modifying a home, you should be able to get to builders and say, we need to design the homes where they are elder friendly.
And we've got to think about access to the space as the bathroom that they've already designed, which is very accessible, but they're not thinking about how I'm going to get to that space.
Yep. But you have some unique qualifications that you bring to this. You are an engineer by trade.
Yes, and I'm a licensed engineer in the state of Florida.
Yeah, but I'm going to look at some things I have on a piece of paper because I want to go. One of the things that, if people get people that are in business, you see all these, you get these doctors, they got FACC, FACS, PhD, and all this stuff. A lot of people don't know what all these things are. Most of the time, they don't mean anything to the consumer. But I think in the case of some of your credentials, it makes a difference because I want you, when you say the PE, that stands for what?
Professional engineering. Professional engineer in the state of Florida. So that's the license.
So you got an understanding of the problem. CGC
is the certified general contractor, which is licensed in the state of Florida.
So you're not going to have any trouble pulling permits or anything like that.
No.
And a lot of people don't realize that. I think of a restaurant and put a deck on, they couldn't use the deck because they didn't pull a proper permit.
Right. And my contracts, if you have a licensed contractor, those will have contracts that actually stand up in a court of law.
So it makes a difference in who you get to do the work. But I like this one here, the CEAC.
Okay, that's Certified Environmental Access Consultant. That is looking at it from an occupational therapist's point of view and a client and how to modify their homes.
And folks, this is one of the things that when we talk about occupational therapy, occupational therapy doesn't mean it has to do with where you work. It has to do with how you can care for yourself moving around inside your workplace or inside your home. An occupational therapist teaches you how to move safely, and if you got a microwave seated over a stove, you just don't take the microwave out and turn around and walk to the other side of the kitchen. You take it out and set it down on the cabinet. You go to the other side of the thing, you pick that in, or else you slide it along. You learn different ways to move the product yourself, but in your case, you could help design something that you didn't have to move it.
Right. So that everything is in the place where their strengths are.
Yeah.
So it builds on their strengths, or their, and doesn't build on their weaknesses.
So some of the things you've done are like going back to school, because one of the things is one of your acronyms stands for Aging in Place Specialist, and another is an Executive Certificate in Home Modification from the University of Southern California School of Gerontology.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that we have gerontologists in this country. We don't begin to have near enough gerontologists to care for our aging population. But here you have credentials where you have studied with gerontologists. You understand some of the problems that seniors are going to face. You've tried to take that and put it into what your work specialty is. So it makes more sense that we could start getting people like home builders, contractors, to talk to you, because a general contractor most time is just worried about fixing a hole in the roof, or plugging a hole here, or doing something there, moving a wall. They don't figure out why they have to move the wall.
Yes, I agree with you there.
There's a difference.
And yes,
there really is,
and that's where the engineering really comes in too.
But since the fact that you are an engineer, how do you feel that helps you? And we start talking about home modifications for aging people, senior citizens. And one of the important things is your home modification, what you do helps keep the senior in the home.
Yes.
Can you explain that to our viewer?
Okay, what I do as an engineer is engineers are problem solvers. That's what we're taught to do. Whether you're mechanical, chemical, electrical, you're always taught how to solve a problem.
Right.
You identify the problem, because defining the problem is usually your biggest issue. But once you define it, then you're taught how to come up with the creative solutions for it. And then with the general contracting license, I can implement those solutions.
Okay. But one of the things here, how do you create solutions for independent living? I kind of like that. I'll let you explain it. And if you don't explain everything, I got a cheat sheet, so I can keep you honest. But it's important, because this is an area that, even though I've studied architecture for 3 years, there's still things I don't understand what you're trying. I also am an engineer, but my engineering expertise was more towards driving a ship, fixing engines on ships, and repair of hydraulic systems and stuff like that. Not home modification. But I've learned a lot by working with senior citizens about the importance of people understand what it is like people like you do. So maybe you could how do you create solutions for independent living? How do you do this?
Okay, when I meet with a client, I try to find out what their favorite thing to do is and what is stopping them from doing that. Where is their special place? Such as I do have a client that has some form of dementia, and she likes her garden. But her garden has stones, river rock on it. So now she's having problems accessing her garden because she's not very sure on her feet anymore, and she's starting to shuffle. But so her family has told her she's not allowed out in her garden, which is making her very upset. So what we are working on right now is coming up with a solution that will remove the barrier. So basically remove the rocky floor to the garden, but still allow her to access the plants. And right now we had started with pavers, and now we're going to possibly just a poured concrete circular pattern.
Okay.
that will allow her to get to her garden, which will make her very, very happy. So that's the one thing. I look at what is most important to the client
Okay.
and what is preventing them from doing that. And then we work it from there.
Okay. I noticed that one of the things is some of the questions that you told me about. We talked about funding some of these type of modifications, and I looked at some of the ways you say you fund these things, and I was really amazed. But what are some of your suggestions for people for funding home modifications? I wasn't aware there were so many ways to do it.
Yes, there's a number of different ways. The first one would be to look at private funds. Do it in the beginning. Do it before, as you were saying. Look at it from a universal design standpoint. If you're thinking about remodeling your home, why don't you take this idea also in effect with your remodel? So then you can go out and get the home equity loan. Or if you want to do a small amount, such as $10,000, you could probably go to your bank and get a same as cash credit card even to do those. And that's how you can pay for it in the beginning. The other ways to do it are through the Medicaid state waiver. If you do have a disability that has been diagnosed and you need to get to work, there is the vocational rehab portion where you can see if you can qualify for that. And there's a number of different grants within your certain localities. And getting to know your Centers for Independent Living and any of your aging or elder organizations.
Well, you mentioned grants are in different organizations. Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I look at what you had, and I was really amazed at what you had here. Like a housing grant for certain permanently disabled veterans, you can get up to $77,000 for.
Oh yes, when you're
Can
into
you explain
the VA.
some of all this stuff?
Okay, that would be for veterans. So if you're a veteran, there's a number of different types of grants that are available to you. There is the FSS grant, or the FSS where the VA actually pays for things like grab bars, ramps, lifts for your car, but does not go into the home modifications. And that is through your orthopedic department of your VA. So you'd have to get a prescription from them. They would then issue out orders to us to either buy the grab bars and then install them, or buy the ramps and install them. The other one is called the HISA grant, which is a smaller loan. I mean, it's about $6,800 that they would give you. I think it's lifetime. And that can be for things like roll-in showers. Maybe you do want to put in a larger ramping system than what the FSS would have given you. It could widen doorways. It can widen hallways, but it's only $6,800. Then you go into the other two types, which I think was the SHA and the HSA, which are actually, those are also through the VA. Each of these, you do have to have a diagnosed disability, and it depends on what that disability is and where you go, or how you got it, as to how much money they'll give you. But those would work towards like whole home modifications.
How do people find out? You know, I know about Veterans Aid and Attendance, and that's for a spouse of a veteran from World War II, Korea, or Vietnam War. If a certain income standards, they would be eligible for an additional pension. But you've opened up a whole new area here, because this is a funding source for what I would assume disabled veterans.
Yes, yes, it is. And you can look it up on the internet, and also the article that I think is coming out in the Senior Scene this month that I wrote on the VA, different funding paths through the VA. I had put in a number of websites so that you can go to those websites and find out what exactly you need to qualify for each one of these types of grants.
You have an article on this in the forthcoming issue of Senior Scene magazine?
Yes.
It's interesting. I usually proofread all the articles. I did not proofread this much, so I missed that. But I had no knowledge, Elaine, that veterans were eligible for this type of funding. There's been many things recently about home improvements for veterans and been political ramifications about this Wounded Warrior program and different associations that do, but these are legitimate things that the Veterans Office here in Brevard County or any county in the United States should know about these things, but it is a carefully guarded secret. I did not know about these types of things. So this will give me ammunition to write about, and maybe one of my own articles for one of the newspapers, that I can help more people become aware of this, because there are approximately 77,000 veterans that live in Brevard County, Florida.
Yes.
And a lot of them are disabled. I have a disability, but I certainly don't qualify for this kind of thing. But there are a lot that I know that would qualify for this. And I can think of a situation where a guy was had a leg amputation, where he still had the clamps in the leg, and an organization in this local community that was supposed to build a ramp for him wouldn't do it because he didn't own the home. And I said, the chances are a person that needs a ramp is not going to own their home if they have a leg amputation like that. The guy was getting into his house by sliding up and down steps in the rain on his rear end to get in and out of his house. His wife couldn't help him. He had to do it himself. So it's a horrible thing that this lack of information. So what we found out today is that people need to work sooner with people like you to plan for eventual living in their home. But even once you get past that, you get a return. How about disabled people that are not veterans? Are there grants or things that the state of Florida would help them do home modifications?
Well, that would be if you're still able to go to work, or you're still mentally able to go to work, but the disability is preventing you from going to work. There is the vocational rehab, which would fund certain modifications to allow you to get out of the house to go to work, because that's what they're trying to do, is make sure that you can work and get you back into the workforce. There's also, we have, for our seniors, we have the Aging Matters group, which will give, they'll put in grab bars and some ramps for a donation based on whether you qualify or not. Now, all these grants, there's different qualifications for them.
But are you aware they won't do it unless you own the home?
Yes.
And see, I think that's wrong. If a group like Aging Matters gets federal funds to put in, and I know this is a local decision not to do that, because the federal government does not have does not preclude or doesn't have a question whether you own or don't own the home as to being whether you're eligible for grab bars. The federal government says you can do it for anybody. A local decision was made to not do it unless you own a home. See, I think that's one of the reasons why shows like you and I are talking about today here, there are a whole number of people that HandyPro could help with safer conditions in their home, with making different things accessible. And you brought up a good point, getting people back to the workforce. There are just so many things. There's so many things that we could talk about, but how about insurance? Does insurance, we don't have much time, but does insurance fit into this?
The long-term health care or the long-term care policies sometimes can have a rider that will allow the home modifications. So when somebody is looking into a long-term care policy, please look to see if there's an addition for home modifications on that policy.
So a safer thing would be if somebody has a loved one or has a spouse that can't navigate home safely, call HandyPro, state the problem, see if there's something you can do to help them, or at least get them started in the right direction.
Yes.
How would somebody call HandyPro? We're not out of time yet.
Okay.
You can say it.
You can call us at 321-208-7989.
Or you can call Helping Seniors at 473-7770, and you can find out in their folks about all the wonderful organizations that support helping seniors like Elaine does. She supports helping seniors. She helps get the information from this show out to the general public because you know that more people need to know about what is available within the community to help themselves.
Yes.
What in the last few seconds we have, what would Elaine Cook of the HandyPro of the Space Coast say to people about using her type services?
We can make sure that any of the barriers that you see to doing the things that you enjoy doing and that encroach on your independence, we can take them away. We can come up with the solutions that will allow you to stay in your home independently and safely and continue to do the stuff that you enjoy doing.
And I think what's important to add to it, Elaine, is that you can help them find funding sources many times that they didn't know about. I've been in this business for 30 years. I didn't know some of the information that you and I talked about today. So if I don't know about it, there's a pretty good chance that the average person is not going to know about it because they're not involved in what we are. Having said that, I want to thank you for doing the show today, and I hope our viewing audience has learned something about HandyPro of the Space Coast.
I hope so too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a good show.
I'm Joe Steckler. Thank you for joining our program today. I'd like to remind you that our senior information line is available to you at 321-473-7770. There you can get help and direction that could be helpful for your specific situation or circumstances. The work of helping seniors is very important, but we can't do it alone. That is why our sponsors here in Brevard County are so important. I'd like to thank our many area sponsors, businesses and medical providers who support the mission of helping seniors that help us carry the cost of our media efforts. If you'd like to join us either as a business partner or simply donate as an individual, we would welcome your call at 321-473-7770. You are always welcome to visit our website at www.helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Thanks so much for your help. It does make a difference.